Finally. Finally. Okay. Technical issues. Sorry about that. I couldn't go live for some reason. Hopefully everything's working on your guys' end. Let me know in the comments. Can you hear me? Everything sound okay? No issues, no problems? Hola. Hola to you. Hola to you. Sounds good to me. Okay, cool. Perfect. We're on. All right. I'm going to take the headphones off because I always forget. Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great. It is great to see everybody for another live episode of NRD. Today, we're just going to chill out. You guys have me until noon, and I decided to kind of just jump in here and get started a little bit earlier than usual. And so, bring me your questions, and I'll be happy to lie to you about all of your questions. Oh, it's so good to see you guys. Where's Danny? I think Danny's working right now. I think he's buried under a bunch of diffusers. He's been selling a lot of diffusers. All right, first question out of the gate. What happened to your Kaladin video? It is unlisted. So I moved it from being a public video to an unlisted video. And I did that for a couple of different reasons. Nothing nefarious or anything. It's just that there's really no reason to even keep that video up because Kaladin has changed. There's been a change in the crossover. There's been a change in the baffle, and I haven't heard the latest iteration of it. And so it doesn't make sense to keep, that video up. And until I hear the latest iteration, if I decide to do that, then, we'll circle back around and we'll move forward with another Kaladin video. So that's what happened to it. Where did I get this mug? This mug, which I love dearly, was given to me by a dear friend by the name of Randy, also known as the Cheap Audio Man. Early on, he just sent me really cool gifts. He sent it's just like a bunch of little toy animals for my kids, like the kind of toy animals that are very sharp. And so as you're walking through the house in the middle of the night because you need to take a leak, you step on those farm animals and then you're in excruciating pain. So thank you, Randy. I do appreciate it. In all seriousness, Randy's the best. He sent me this mug and I love it. And I love that guy. He's awesome. How much did the shed cost? For everything all in, under 50, just under 50 was kind of the budget that we had set aside for doing this project. And we came in just under that. So kind of gives you an idea. And I should mention, this is important. It would have cost quite a bit more had I hired people to build out, all the framing in the shed, but I did that all myself. So I saved a lot of money in that regard. But yeah, under 50 for the entire shed is what I ended up paying. What's more important, pre or power amp? Well, important is a little bit tricky. I don't know what you mean by important. I mean, both are equally important. You can't, you have a preamp so you can plug things into it. So therefore it's pretty important. Which one has the biggest impact on what we hear? Oh, it's hard to say. Questions like this pop up all the time. And I don't think that there's ever a cut and dry answer. And I'm not trying to weasel my way out of answering you. Are we talking about a tube preamp or a solid state preamp? Are we talking about a tube power amp or a solid state power amp? And there's so many different factors in that. I would say across the board, for the most part, I think that I've noticed the biggest changes in amplifiers. So power amplifiers, I think, as a broad comment, I would say they probably have made the biggest difference in terms of what we hear, in my experience. What do you guys think? I'm curious. How's the development of Arya or Air 1, and can Danny bring the cost down? I don't know if Danny can bring the cost down. The anything that has to do with the manufacturing of the speaker and where the numbers line up and how much it's going to cost, that's all in his wheelhouse, and I'm staying as far away from that as I possibly can. Obviously, when we, were talking about initially doing this, I had pie in the sky dreams of like, can we do a speaker that's going to be, as good as this speaker, but $1,500, $2,000. That's where I would have loved to have been. I think it would have been very competitive at that price point, and clearly we're way past that. But the development of it seems to be fine. As far as I know, we've actually signed off on all of the cabinets being manufactured and made, and that process is already happening right now. And then those will be sent to us on a massive pallet. And of course, we're going to have the circuit boards made, and it's going to be time to piece all of these things together and snap them up and get them out. Ron, do you I think you meant have. Do you have a favorite reviewer? Yes. Randy, the Cheap Audio Man, is my personal favorite for a number of different reasons. Um, I just enjoy watching him. He makes me laugh. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's lighthearted. There's never a dull moment, with Randy. So across the board, if I'm going to sit down and just enjoy watching somebody, learning from their craft and the way they speak on camera and how much fun they have, I think that Randy's probably my favorite. All right. MS says, Ron, please get Aura EQ feet for your gear and confirm I am not crazy. They are great. Okay, man. I will do it. And I will confirm that you are not crazy. I'll notate that. And I'll check that out, man. Hey, man, not fair. I am working at this hour. I will not be able to stick around. Tomcat, I'm so sorry, man. I apologize. Maybe I'll start splitting up the timings of the live chats and, live streams. That way we can get more people in here. Hello, are you working at Cardis? No, I am not working at Cardis. I think you mean the cable company. No, nice people, but I don't work at Cardis. Have I ever heard VTV amps? No, I have not. Well, that's not true. I think I've heard them at shows a couple of times, but it's difficult to say in a hotel room that's not treated and kind of a disaster. Like, I wonder what the amps are doing in this situation. Yeah. So let's see here. When we'll be seeing and hearing about the NRD Air 2 and 3? That's a good question, Chris. The Air 2, and I don't know if these are going to be the names. We're still kind of talking about that. The Air 2 will certainly be sooner rather than later. So the Air 1, the bookshelf, and the Air 2 have a lot in common. In fact, Danny and I are both anxious and curious if the exact same network in the Air 1 might work in the Air 2. And that would be fantastic. We already know what that network is, and there's no more revoicing and taking time doing that. So hopefully that will end up being the case. And, the Air 2 is simply just a floor standing version of the Air 1, and you have a bit bigger woofer and you're going to have deeper bass. And so going to be a cool speaker. Hello there. It is 5 p.m. in Belgium. Oh, that is fantastic, and that's crazy. So it is 10 a.m. here in Texas. We just survived kind of a deep freeze here in Texas. It's been cold, and now it's kind of beautiful out. Luxman amplifiers. This is a great question. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't spent any time with Luxman. I'm truly embarrassed to say that because they're kind of one of these legacy brands. I just haven't had the opportunity. And to be honest with you, I don't even know who the distributor is for Luxman, but I should fix that. Both Luxman and AccuPhase are two integrated amps that I would be very curious to spend some time with and see how they sound. John Shepler in the house. John, so good to see you, man. Hey, Ron, I'll try to behave today, but should I buy a new cartridge for my 1978 Fisher-Price record player or buy a new car for Ava's sweet 16th birthday? Bro, this is easy. I mean, you know, as much as I would love for Ava to get a car for her Sweet 16, the truth is that you do need a new cartridge for your 1978 Fisher-Price record, way more than she needs transportation. So, get that question out of here. It's so obvious. Uh, where do you do your testing? JD, I do my testing in this room. This is known as the sound shed, and this is a acoustically treated space. And this is where I do all of my listening and videos and just kicking back and listening to music. Lately, I've been listening to headphones, which has been an awful experience. Oh, headphones, man. This Friday, I'm going to be releasing a video about the poets, Meze poets. Where are you? Where are you? And for the 3 people that are going to watch what I have to say about the poets, it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting video. I don't love the poets. I don't, but I think that you should still jump in there and see why. I need to do a better job of, even if I don't necessarily love the way something sounds, I can still, and I feel like I have an obligation to explain why I don't like it and what it is that you might like about it, and we can be at peace, with those types of things. So that'll be a cool video. That'll be out on Friday for Frequency Friday. Edgar is asking, setup with subwoofers or not subwoofer? What is your opinion? I love subs. I love bass. I will always use subs when I have subs for the most part. Even if we're talking about, a speaker that is broadband that can hit really low, I still feel like getting into the 20s is necessary for some tension. It's difficult. It's less about what you hear and more about what you feel at that point. But I'm a sucker for it, and I love that really deep tension that you can get, with the lowest of low octaves. So that's my thoughts on that. Hi, Ron. Why do you think that speaker companies don't set up decent wave files of recorded music through their speakers in acoustic treated controlled rooms? Commentary, what the recording can't convey. It's so problematic. The reason why is there's a million variables that are going to be beyond the control of anybody doing sound clips, and that's myself included. I don't know what you're listening to the sound clips back on. And whatever that is, it's going to impart its own sound. And so it's very difficult and I think it'd be very problematic for a manufacturer to say, this is what our speaker sounds like, when the truth is, if they're playing it back on an iPhone, that's not what their speaker sounds like. So it's complicated. As you guys know, I've tackled and embraced sound clips in my videos, but I don't do that as the only piece of evidence as to what I'm hearing. I use it as another piece of the pie. So it's like, okay, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to bring measurements when I can. And then I'm also going to do some sound clips, and I'm going to do the best that I can to try to get the essence of what the speaker is doing, but it's complicated. It's challenging. Thomas is asking, we used to say, if you don't like your relative, buy their kids a drum set for Christmas. Maybe Cheap Audio Man doesn't like you. Speaking of Cheap Audio Man, the one and only, the head honcho, and he gave me a super chat. Oh, Randy, let's get this part right, my friend. You are the best, buddy. You're the best. And while we're at it, we have the wrecking crew in here, folks. We've got Michael, the Greek audio geek, Audiophile Adventures. He's asking me, do you agree tubes and horns are the best combo ever? You got the first part right. Tubes, yes. Horns, you should throw off a cliff. Be like, bye-bye. Now I'm going to go listen to some real speakers. Michael is so mad right now. He's probably like, this man is a jerk. And I hate his dumb little Arya speaker. It's awful. It's terrible. I'm taking back everything I had to say about it. Man, the truth is, Michael, there's been some horns that I've messed around with that I've enjoyed, some of the JBLs and stuff like that I do like. It's a sound, and I think that I need to spend more time with more horn speakers and see if there's a gem out there that I can really get along with. And I get it. I think that I'm at a point where I fully understand the celebration of horns and why people like them so much. That presence and that dynamic. Their dynamic is a firecracker, and it's like, man, they will get up and go. I mean, it's like a jolt. So, yeah, totally. Hey, buddy. This is from Serge. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy, to you. I've had the Holomay KTN for about a month, and I'm liking it. Looking at the Serene to replace Emotiva XSP1 Gen 2, what would that be a clear upgrade running stereo subs as well? So I'm always honest. I've never heard that Emotiva. I don't know how good it is. So this is me just guessing. I have put the Serene up against a lot, and I mean a lot of different preamplifiers. And the Serene for me is a preamplifier that is a window. It kind of gets out of the way. So it really doesn't impart a particular sound. I feel like it's a great platform for a reviewer because it just doesn't do anything. And so now you can actually hear what else is happening, whether it's going to be the DAC, whether it's going to be the power amps or whatever it is. So, whether or not that Emotiva is imparting a particular sound that you like, I don't know. And I don't like to try to sway you one way or another, but I will tell you that for me, the Serene doesn't have a sound. It's very holographic and very open. And so what I can tell you in my experience is that if you want to hear the Maydac without really anything else in the way, then a Serene is a very good option. The only thing that I don't like about the Serene is the lack of single-ended outputs. I think that was a big mistake. They only have one set of single-ended outputs, and I think there should have been a minimum of 2 sets. So that way, as you've already noted, you can start, running stereo subs and things like that. I think that was a big mistake. They went hard on the balance, which is great. There's nothing wrong with balance, but I would have liked to have seen more single-ended outputs. All right, let's take a look here. MS is saying, I think the pre is a bigger impact. So there you go. And I would say MS, there's times where I would completely agree. So it's not so simple, It's like, well, it really does depend on the preamp and what the preamp is doing, whether or not it's going to have a bigger impact than the power amp. Yeah, really good questions out of the gate. It's so good to see you guys. We got 97 in here, a couple of super chats. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. We've got Daniel asking, thanks for the review on the Pontus 15th. I had a 3-hour long session with it paired with the Denafrips Artemis and the HE100 SE. It was wonderful. I even preferred the Pontus to the Gustard X30. I'm not surprised, man. I really felt I really was blown away by just how good the Pontus 15th sounded. And it's warmer than the Maydac for sure. It doesn't peel back every single layer that the Maydac does in terms of just sheer resolution. But my goodness, it just sounds absolutely beautiful. I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm sorry, guys. Apologize for that. Let's see here. Neil K. Positive feedback ain't so positive. Yeah. I was reluctant to even post that, that image of that, how that all went down. And maybe that was a mistake because, there's the post and what I think about it and how I feel about it. And it's probably two different things. I want the magazines to win. I don't want them to go away. I don't want them to lose. I want everybody to win. I want this community to do better. And I want this community, everybody in the community to not only exist, but to thrive. Audiophiles are dying, and a lot of these guys and gals that, were listening to stuff in the 70s, they're going away, and it's like, this is the community now. And so how do we move it forward? It's like, well, we just support each other and maybe at least just show some kind of respect. It's like you might not You might not agree with my assessment of, whether or not audiophiles are insane for buying a $16,500 phono cartridge. And for the record, that wasn't clickbait. I was asking a legitimate question. I wanted to know, like, what do you think? And there was nothing in that video where, I made any kind of bizarre claims either one way or another. I did my best of saying, this is what I like about this cartridge, and you might like that too. And so in that example, you might not be crazy to spend that kind of money if that's what you're after. Um, but yeah, it was unfortunate. I think I need to do a video about after this is going to sound a bit high horsey. I don't mean for it to be, but after doing this for a long time, 10 years and more than 10 years and seeing so many different shifts and changes and things like that, I think I want to do a video that is my take on how we can actually win. Everybody's going to win if we just follow these principles of let's just try to be a little bit more considerate and respectful. I'm not going to get on my soapbox. Let's see here. Am I going to Expona? Unfortunately, not this year. I will be most likely going to the Southwest Audio Fest for at least one day. I should be there for at least a day. Thomas is asking, hi, I want to know what your opinion is regarding airtight amplifiers. I don't see much media about them, but they look super high quality. I haven't even heard of that brand, so I'll have to take note of that, and I will check it out for you and let you know. Raymond is saying, hey, Ron, why does it seem that GR drivers have a smaller magnetic structures than others? Thanks. That's interesting. Well, I mean, there's different types of magnets. You have, I'm going to draw a blank. I'm kind of caught on the spot here. Neodymium magnets. And then you have more traditional, bigger magnets. That's going to, obviously change the size of the magnetic structures on the speaker. But to answer your question, and I think this is the answer to your question, is it doesn't matter. And I mean that. Like the size of the magnetic structure of a driver is a bit irrelevant in terms of visual. Like, oh, that looks like it's big, so therefore this speaker must be better. No, that's not true. That structure has a job to perform with that particular suspension and that driver, and they work together. And so a formula is created of how large or how small or how strong that magnet needs to be. So this is a common mistake I think that a lot of people make, is they think like, oh, this looks like so much more impressive because of the size of this magnet structure and stuff like that. It's like, no, I mean, that just means that driver needs that big honking magnet in order for it to do its thing. That's all that it means. So if anybody wants to share their thoughts on that, they can. I probably got a couple of things in there, technically not perfect, but I think that's the gist of it. Let's take a look here. JD, what is the best DAC you have heard so far? I keep coming back to the May DAC. It has been my reference now for 4 years, and I don't expect it to go away anytime soon. I've also fallen in love with, excuse me, guys. I have also fallen in love with an older Dodd Audio DAC with the Sparkos op amp in there. And it sounds gorgeous, especially in soundstage and imaging, and I like that quite a bit. But that is off the beaten path. There's only a small handful of those DACs that were ever even made, and I'm just lucky to have one of them. So the May DAC right now, as a DAC that you can go out and buy, is still my reference DAC for a lot of different reasons, and it's probably still my favorite overall. Any thoughts on Unison Research? I've heard good things about them. Stuff that I've heard at the show sounds really nice. But again, back to my previous comment, it's hard to judge things, at a show. It's like there's a lot going on and the room is usually a mess and there's no treatment. And so you're trying to sift through, like, what am I actually hearing here? But of the stuff that I've heard at the shows, I've been pretty impressed. Mike is asking, why is there a lack of music streamers without a DAC? That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not, that tech savvy when it comes to the reasons why that is. But I do know what you're saying, and I've noticed that as well. It seems like it's either one or the other. Maybe somebody else in here can, jump in and share their thoughts. Maybe this is just a fork in the road, and that we'll see that actually that marriage happen, more and more down the road. It's difficult to say. Yeah, that's hard to say. Uh, Ken is asking Ronbo, can I use a good preamp Bryston to add additional inputs? Sure you can. Yeah, that was easy. Of course you can. That's what a preamp does is you get a preamp going and then you can plug in more stuff. You bet. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on this? Opening up your sound shed for people to visit you and learn from to watch you work for a fee? I've had at least one or two people ask that. It feels odd to me. It feels a little bit strange to me. Um, and I talked to my wife about it. I was like, "How does this sit with you? Like people coming over and like watching me work or being a part, like, and then charging them." I don't like the idea of charging anybody for that kind of a thing. It's like if you want to come out and just hang out for a day or two, and kind of see what I do and, just listen and evaluate things, I'm perfectly fine with that. My wife was like, yeah, you should definitely charge them. Like, come on, I mean, they're hanging out with you and taking up your time. But I don't know if I would do that. I would say, hey, if you want to buy me lunch while you're here, that would probably be fine. But I'm not opposed to it. Uh, Getting straight to the point, I'm not opposed to it. I think there needs to be for my family safety and for my safety is I don't know you guys. I would like to believe and put my best foot forward that you are all reasonable human beings and you're not psychopaths, but I would need to do a little bit of screening and talks on the phone and make sure like, are we safe? But yeah, I'm open to it. Let's take a look here. Really unfortunate says, I'll watch what you have to say about the poets. Hey, thank you. We will have one view on the poet review on Friday. Thank you. Really unfortunate. I appreciate that, man. Can you comment on how the TSA 75 compare to the tiers? Yes, I like the TSA 75's top end a little bit more than the tiers. It's a little bit less forward than the tiers are. The tiers are a very um, front to mid row experience. It's like they nailed it with like the Gods of War. It's just like these things are they're gonna give it to you whether you like it or not, and that can be a lot of fun. It's like you got to kind of be careful with pairings and things like that. They're pretty excited. Um, but the TSA 75, I feel as if it's just a little bit lighter. It's a little bit less relaxed on top, but where the tiers pummel the TSA 75 is bass control and authority, especially at moderate to moderate high volumes. And I need to review the TSA 75, and I could be very quick about it, but um, I think that they call it a high current amplifier, and I disagree. I don't think even technically that it is. Typically in a high current design, you would see, so many watts at 8 ohms, and then typically you would see it double at 4 ohms. And the TSA 75 does not do that, not even close. It actually kind of loses its ass as soon as you start dropping in ohms. And in terms of just sheer current and power and grip and bass, it's something that I've noticed, at moderate to moderate high volumes that it sounds like it just hits a wall and then it's not giving anymore. So, needless to say, at its price point, and depending on the music and depending on how you use it, whether you're using subs and pulling some of the, back end off of your mains, you could certainly get by with a TSA 75 and you would do just fine. And that would change all of my thoughts that I just said. But it's a great sounding amplifier. It's a beautiful sounding amplifier, and I like it quite a bit. Cheap Audio Man, come on, my friends, throw Ron $1 or two. This guy has kids and probably needs to buy some more stupid room treatments. Oh my goodness sakes. Oh, Randy, you are hilarious, man. Stupid room treatments, all these dumb treatments that do nothing. It's dumb. Oh, so funny. What do you think of the shit tier in 2025? I think they're great. I just spent some time talking about them. You can just back up and, or maybe you caught what I had to say. They are a powerful, powerful sounding amplifier. They don't hold back. So you got to kind of be ready for that. Like brace yourself. You're going to get on the roller coaster. There's no seatbelts, man. It's like these are the gods of war. So be ready. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. They're great. Let's take a look here. Compliments on your recordings and the speakers on demo, the best that I have heard. Thank you so much, man. There's nobody that was more resistant than I was about sound clips early on. I was like, I hate this so much. And to be honest with you, I think because of that, a large part of that is why I've gotten them as good as I have, because I just wouldn't settle. I was like, if I'm gonna do sound clips, I'm gonna give the best sound clip that I possibly can. And so I really appreciate that. I'll take that and say thank you. It's a very kind thing to say, and I'm proud of my clips. I think that they sound really good too. Cheap Audio Man, and thumb this thing up. Thumbs up, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, that does help out, with the algorithms. And as soon as this hits the street on YouTube, it will just get more views. So if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up, I do appreciate it. John Shepler, have you found a better closed back headphone over the Meze 99s, or are they still your favorite for money to performance? They are my favorite, which is kind of crazy because, a lot of folks actually would say this guy is crazy because these are very warm and there's not enough on top and this and that. And that's all true. I think that is true. If you compared these with the 105 AERs, the 105 AERs, which are $400, those are light on their feet and they sound more airy and extended. And technically speaking, I think they're superior to the 99 Classics. But I am so used to these. I'm so used to them that I just understand what they're doing. And so it's like I can hear outside of their limitations and, have a pretty good idea of what to expect. So I love the 99 Classics, and I think they're just a great deal. They're a great deal out there. Warmer sounding, not quite as vibrant on top, a little bit dull on top, but great sounding headphones. I love them. The true voice of reason. Oh, let's see here. If you created a community around a pair of broken poets, would that be the Dead Poets Society? Coming in with the jokes. I love it. Hey, we got a super chat. Oh, this is so cool. $10. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. That does help out the channel. Have you ever reviewed or listened to any Prima Luna products? If not, I would love to hear your take on them. Man, you and me both, brother. I would love to check out some Prima Luna stuff. And I think that is Kevin. Is Kevin, what is the name of the company? I forget it. I'm drawing a blank. I can't believe it. Kevin Deal. Anyways, I'll have to reach out and see if I can make that happen. I would love to check out some Prima Luna stuff because I know it's real popular and a lot of people love those amps. Got some more super chats coming in. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate the super chats, guys. It's very kind of you. This is SGD 4.00. I think this guy just gave me $1 million. I think that's how the changeover is going to work. You cannot have it back. That's mine to keep. Thank you. I'm going to buy a Lamborghini or more room treatment. Who needs a Lamborghini when you can just get more stupid room treatment? All right, let's take a look here. Gio is asking with the super chat. Thank you, Gio. Can you comment on how the TSA 75 compare to the tiers? Happy now, Randy. I already answered the question. Thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. That's very nice. PP said, mention that you are not fond of Pure Audio Project Open Baffle speakers. A couple of prominent YouTube reviewers who use these speakers as a reference. Just wondering what you don't like. Okay. So I'm going to just try to trek through this very briefly again, just so there's context here. I know that Steve, I think, is using their trios. I forget the name. Not a speaker that I've heard. I don't know what that speaker sounds like. It might be the cat's pajamas. I have checked out 2 different, Pure Audio Project older models, right, back in the day, that when I listened to them, key phrase, listened to them right out of the gate, I wasn't in love with what I heard. Um, I thought that it was a confused type of a sound. It didn't sound at all linear. It sounded like we had a bit of ups and downs and peaks and valleys, and things sounded shouty here and forward here and held back here. There were instruments that sounded kind of confused. I didn't love them. And I spent quite a bit of time with, placement and things like that. And in both of these situations, I had to get them on the bench and I had to measure them to figure out what is going on here. And I am saying from a technical standpoint, right? This isn't meant to be like a diss or a jab at Pure Audio Project. From a objective standpoint, looking at the data, the speakers were a disaster. They were a mess. We had woofers playing on top of mid ranges and mid range playing on top of tweeters and tweeters overlapping. It was a disaster. It was all over the place. But, and this is the point of this, and I'm going to move on. This does not reflect my respect that I have for that company, and specifically Zeev. He is a wonderful guy, a wonderful human being, and I had long conversations with him about my findings. And this isn't a situation of a guy that doesn't know what he's doing. He does know what he's doing. He's just chasing a different thing. And so those models were not my bread and butter. They might be yours, and that's totally okay, but I just didn't care for them. It was just a weird roller coaster ride with how they sounded, and I didn't care for it. Balanced and unbalanced amplifiers, and will I notice a difference? Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. I don't have strong feelings about it. There are many audiophiles. This is maybe one of the things where somebody like Danny and I might not completely totally agree. He is very much in the camp of single-ended is the way to go and sounds better than balanced. And there's a lot of folks that would agree with him. I feel pretty indifferent about it because I've had a lot of systems that have been wired up and balanced that sound freaking amazing, and I've had a lot in single-ended that sounds amazing. And so whether or not you hear a difference, it's not a bet that I would place. I don't know. You have to try it and then, kind of figure out for yourself, like, do I hear a difference? Do I, and what differences are those? I do know that from a technical standpoint with balanced, you can do longer cable runs without any kind of issues. I mean, that's one of the main purposes of a balanced system, is that you can do that. AM is saying, hey, Ron, I just joined the live stream. Not sure if you covered this already. You asked about the purpose of a DDC on one of your previous streams. They are to clean up noise from USB devices. Thank you. Thank you. That is good to know. Okay. Thank you, AM. I appreciate that. I've lost many hours of sleep. I'm like, wow, I don't understand why we need a DDC. This seems so dumb, but there you go. Cleans up noise from USB devices. Now everybody needs to get a DDC. Use my affiliate links. I'm kidding. Don't. Let's take a look here. Ron, I used to have a treated dedicated listening room. I really do think that people realize that the room treatment is absolutely the best upgrade that we can make. There's no question about it. I've talked about it to the point where you guys all have listening fatigue. Acoustic treatment for me is paramount. And it is a tool for me. It makes my job so much easier because I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to listen outside of the room. That's not easy to do when the room is having such a massive impact on things. And in a room like this that is neutral, that is not imparting such a massive imprint, it's still having an effect on it for sure. It just makes my job so much easier. And I love it. It's great. It's been such a gift for me, for sure. Roy is asking, hey, Ron, I would love if you could review the exposure amplifier. I have the 2510 integrated, and it is such a beautiful tonality and musicality. You know what? I've heard some exposure stuff, some vintage exposure stuff from my buddy Mark in Arizona. Dear friend, one of my best friends ever. and he bought an older vintage exposure amplifier. And I got to say, man, it danced. It had a beautiful stage. It was open. It was articulate. It was clean. There was a lot of good things going on. So I agree with you. I should reach out to them and see what I can get. Really Unfortunate is asking, what is your biggest frustration with being a reviewer? The answer is simple. Myself. My stomach is growling. Can you guys hear that? I need to eat something here. And I'm here until 12. So this is going to be a lot of stomach growling. I am my biggest frustration. That's my honest answer. I feel like I get in my way more than anything else, more than any negative comments or drama or anything. I get in my own head about, doing this, and I get frustrated. It's myself, and I feel like I'm really in a good place as of late. Over the past, I would say 4 or 5 months, I've been in a very good place, and I'm seeing things very clearly. And I want to bring a lot of positivity into the community, and I want to change my attitude about a lot of the things where maybe I had more of a negative outlook on things before, and that would include even clip speakers and horns and things like that. I think that it's my job to just simply tell how something sounds, and then provide as much evidence and do all of these things that I do, but then leave it up to you. It's like, hey, this is what you can expect from this product, and if you like it, great. So yeah, and I hate sending back products. I've only done it probably less than 5 times in over a decade. I think is a pretty good, pretty accurate. But I think I think that we desperately need fair and balanced reviews, even if it teeters on some criticisms. I think that's okay, and I think there's ways to do that. And I hope that maybe with the way that I'm going to be doing that and continue to do it, maybe I can be a good example of like, okay, well, there is a way to say these things and not come across as, a total jerk. So that's my thoughts on that. Now, here is a riddle to guess if you can sing the bells of Notre Dame. Who is the monster and who is the man? Sing the bells, 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 bells. I don't know, and I suck at riddles, so you guys can figure that one out. I have no idea what I just read. I don't even know what that meant. Did you ever have any experience with the Emotiva Bass XA2? No. But if Randy is still in here, he has had a lot of experience with a lot of the Emotiva stuff, and I'm sure he could help you out way better than I can. Some of the DACs you already have galvanic isolation in, and therefore makes the DDC redundant, so it makes sense if you cannot hear any difference. Also good to know about DDCs. Hey Ron, how can you square the situation where most of the streaming sources are dynamically compressed, causing loudness and much mud in the stream? Travesty, mastered cans not proper to channel. Mastered for cans not proper to channel. Yeah, streaming is I've said this before. I don't think this is going to surprise anybody. I stream out of the convenience of finding things. I want to find artists. I want to find stuff that I like. If I am critically listening, and if I'm really trying to figure out really how things sound, I avoid streaming. And it's because I do feel, and this is just my opinion and my experience, that even just a plain Jane CD simply sounds better than anything streaming. Anything streaming, it doesn't matter. So in those examples, I'll go through my audiophile playlist where a lot of that stuff has been ripped directly from the CD, and then I will critically listen. And if I find something on streaming that I love, then I'll just buy the CD, or I'll, download, the actual files, the high resolution files, or whatever files are available on Bandcamp or whatever. And then, off I go to the races. But yeah, I agree with you. Streaming is it's got a ways to go before I'm completely, totally happy with it across the board, right? Have I heard the Venus 15th? No, but it's actually in a box in my house right now. And I just got to take it out of that box and then plug it in, and off we go to the races. They were happy with what I had to say about the Pontus, and they want to hear what I have to say about the Venus. So that review will be out soon, So yeah. At Cheap Audio Man, glad to see you here supporting Ron. We love your vids as well. Heck yes, we do. Love my buddy Randy. Sean B is saying, Ron, does X Bravo do anything better than XLS Encore? Ooh, okay. Well, you're asking the question, so I'm going to answer it. I do like the X Bravo. It's a nice sounding speaker. I had a limited experience and time with it, and I noticed that there were some problems with it, not with the speaker design, not with the crossover. One of the tweeters had like a little bit of an air gap leak, and so it was a bit of a distraction to get past because I kept hearing this weird resonance and this weird noise, and we figured out that he just needed to figure out something with a gasket or a way to make sure that that tweeter is not leaking air. But my opinion about the X Bravo is going to be similar as to how I feel about the monitor speaker that Danny offers. I like them. I like them a lot. I do prefer the XLS Encore. And I do think that in a room packed full of audiophiles, it'll probably be a 50-50 split. The X Bravo and the monitor both ride that line of crazy details. Like it's intoxicating how much that tweeter can unravel on top. It's very, very detailed. XLS Encore, not as much, not quite as much, but it's gives you a lot of details, gives you a lot of staging, gives you a lot of the imaging. It's just not crossing that finish line into the extreme. And for me, at least with what I'm listening to these days and what I'm after these days, I don't need the most extreme details. I don't. I'm listening to like how beautiful something sounds. And for me, I think that in my opinion, the XLS Encore is superior in that regard. But again, this will be a 50-50 split down the road. Some people will very much passionately disagree with me, and that's okay. It just means they're wrong. Oh my goodness. Hopefully everybody knows when I'm joking. I get nervous, like, you know that I'm just kidding, right? I'm just trying to make you laugh a little bit. Sparko's 2590 versus 3602. I've only had the 2590. I think I've only had the 2590. I don't know what's in here. Oh, I love this thing to death. Holy cow. The Gemini headphone amplifier. I talk about this in the review with the Poet, and I compare it against this Burson Soloist Voyager. Burson's not going to be thrilled with me, but it is what it is. I tell the truth. This at $1,000 smokes that Burson. It's not even kind of close. It smokes it pretty bad. So I love the Sparko stuff, and I don't know what is in here in terms of the op amps, but I think that the only thing that I've heard is the 2590s. I think I might be wrong. Mark Mancuso. I'm saying your name wrong. I apologize, Mark. Good morning, Texas. Please put the Bucar A10s on the deck circle. You got it, buddy. A10 anniversaries are sitting over here. And Maz was like really reluctant to send these out to me. They're active speakers. He knows that I'm not, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with active. And without a doubt, I think my own bias of I love passive stuff is probably going to be at play in that review. And I'm going to have to figure out how to set that to the side if I can. But also he was concerned about them working in this big room. He's like, they don't have a ton of headroom. They're not going to, light up the entire sound shed. And he was talking about sending me the new E50s and swapping them out for the A10s, but I've made up my mind. I mean, I'm going to listen to these dang things and I'm going to put them through their paces and I'm going to do a review about them. So Maz, change of plans again. You're not getting these back. I'm going to review them. And that's that. Daniel says, which do you prefer, an SUT or a high quality phono stage with gain control? It depends. It's too complicated. It really does depend, man. Daniel, it just depends on the cartridge, on the setup. There is no one preference versus the other. It would really come down to the system. I can't say that I would like one all the time over the other. It would change from system to system. Really Unfortunate says, it's lonely being an audiophile at 25 years old. In my opinion, tech scares a lot of people, so it's important to make things affordable and easy to use. How can you do that while making it audiophile? I don't know. That's a good question. And yeah, it can be a little bit lonely. Um, but I would tell you, young man, when I was 25, into my 30s, kind of getting into this and starting off, invite friends over to your house. Honestly, like if we're going to make a dent in this at all, it starts with something as simple as that. I would have folks over for dinner. It'd be a little bit weird, and I'm kind of an introvert and I don't like people for the most part, unless it's you guys. I like you guys. But my wife and I, we love cooking, love cooking. And so we'd have people over for good food, and I'd have music playing in the background. And all it would take is just one person to be like, what are those glass salt and pepper shakers that are on that amplification fire thing? I'm like, I'm glad you asked. Let's go listen and let's talk about tubes. And it was always fun. And then pretty soon I'm now having conversations with folks that have never even entertained this, of like, Ron, I think I want to get a little 2-channel system set up. And it's like, yes, you will be poor for the rest of your life now, just like me. So yeah. What are your thoughts on the newest Burson amps? I haven't spent any time with any Burson amps other than what I've heard in the shows, so no comment. I can't speak or lean in any direction. I don't know. What do you think about ports in speakers? I believe it's a hoax of high end. It's just a Helmholtz resonator resonating with the tuned frequency. It has nothing to do with the music being played. I don't know about that. I mean, sound pressure builds up in the box, goes through the port, it's tuned at a particular frequency, and then it is creating a more meaningful bass at that particular frequency. Does that, by definition, make it a Helmholtz resonator? I don't know. That's an interesting question that I've never even thought about. I personally don't feel like it's a hoax. I think that there's good reasons to use a ported design at times, and there's times when you don't. I don't think it's a hoax, though. Let's see here. The true voice of reason. Doing it for a fee means you would be a business and you need a license and all that entails. Hey, true voice of reason has just made it clear. That's a quick way to get myself in some trouble. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Oh, this just jumped on me. Darn it. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Let me back up and find this. Here we go. Phil Grace is saying, hi, Ron. Since you build your shed and observed, experienced, and tinkered a while, do you wish something... Ooh, this is a great question. Do you wish you did something different with your sound shed? No, I don't. I don't think that I would have changed anything about going heavier with the diffusers on the sidewalls, which is not very common. I don't think that I would change anything about what I did. However, I do think that there's still gains. There's still room for improvement. So I think that maybe next year I'll do a refresh of the sound shed, kind of where we're at, and do another series of where do I go from here? And can I make this even better than what it is? And tighten up the nuts and bolts, because I do know that there is still room for improvement. As good as my bass traps are, shout out to Acoustic Insider. This design, these are phenomenal. They're getting down into the 40s, but past that, they're not doing a whole lot. And so there is still room for improvement. Tackling that deep bass is very difficult to do, and I don't know if I would make much of a dent, but I wouldn't change anything. But at this point, I think that there is still room for improvement, and perhaps I can work that into a meaningful series of where do we go from here and how do we actually improve it and why. All right, let's take a look here. Rombo, I wasn't clear. Can I use a preamp to patch into an integrated amp input to expand the number of inputs available? Oh, that's a good question. Ken, the problem that you're going to run into is going to be gain, because both of those amplifiers, the preamplifier and the integrated amplifier, they have gain. So you have two different volumes that you're now working with gain, and I'm a little bit concerned that you might end up in the weeds with too much of that. Might actually hurt you. Would you end up with more stuff? Yeah, you would. And there are some integrated amplifiers that do have a main input. So that's designed for that very reason, is that you can actually set up a preamp and then run it into that amp, and it would typically bypass the preamp in the integrated amplifier. Whether or not yours does that, I don't know, but that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to make that happen. Hopefully that helps. Arturo is asking, I have the Harbeth P3 ESRs powered by an NAD M10V2, and I'm considering a Heagle H400. I'm sure I'd enjoy the H400 long term, but is it ideal for the P3s or is it overkill? What's your advice? I will be able to answer that question very soon, because also in the house, in a box, is a shiny new H400. I need to simply just take it out of the box and listen to it, and I'll be able to tell you. If it sounds anything like the 380, my gut tells me, because I do know the M10 quite well. I don't know the version 2, but I know the OG M10. I think it would clean its clock. I think it'd be like, boom, get out of here, little guy. I mean, the 380 was a powerhouse of an amplifier. Would it be overkill for some P3 ESRs? Probably so, but we're audiophiles and we like overkill. We like more than what we need. It's what we do. We're never satisfied. So I'll be able to answer that, with a bit more conviction, and setting aside like slam and dynamics, which the P3 is certainly not known for. I should be able to tell you whether or not there's going to be something more beautiful of where that P3 ESR dances, and if there's a good reason why you should do it. Super chat coming in from Mark. Thanks for being on our wavelength, Ron. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. That's very kind of you. We've got hello from Alabama. What phono stage would you upgrade from the shit Manny 2 under $1,000? Ooh. I'm out of the game with phono preamps and what's available on the market right now, and I'm reluctant to jump in here and say anything, but I think Shit Audio just released like a really high-end phono preamp. I forget the name of it, and I forget the price of it. Check that one out. That might be the perfect upgrade from the Manny 2. It might be more than 1,000. I can't remember when I saw the press release, but check that out. Dwayne is asking, why is all good audio coming out of Texas? You, Randy, shit, CR, and on and on. I mean, it's Texas. It's what we do. It's what we do. You're welcome. Ryan Lewis, hi, Ron and Randy. Have you all listened to the Fozzy SP601 speakers? Maybe a review coming on them. Would love y'all's thoughts. I haven't. I'm sure that Randy probably has. I think he's heard every cheap speaker that has ever been manufactured and made since 1968. Excuse me, 1969. He's probably heard them. I haven't, so I don't know. Upscale audio. Oh, thank you so much, Todd. That was killing me. That was painful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Upscale audio for Prima Luna. I'll have to reach out to Kevin and see if we can make that happen. Let's take a look here. For home theater, should I be looking for a narrow or wide sound stage? I would go for a wide sound stage myself. I like things scattered around. And so when we're talking about movie effects and things like that, bouncing off walls and, this immersive type thing, I would go for speakers that have a wider dispersion pattern. Personally, that's what I would do. But I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And there might be some folks that very much disagree with me, and that's okay. That's fine. Roy is saying, thanks for your contribution to our beloved hi-fi community. This is the attitude that I want to see, man. We all got to love it. Take care of it. It's ours. We do what we want with the community. We can either ruin it by being a bunch of jerks and, saying things like, who cares when somebody posts a YouTube video that they worked hard on? We can do that. Or we can say, hey, man, thanks for posting that video. Hopefully somebody likes it. I mean, that's a less dick way of saying the same thing. Like, I might not like that, but maybe somebody will, pardon the language there. I'm sorry about that. All right, Daniel Dill. Let's take a look here. Oh, I already answered that question. Geo is saying balanced always sounded more dynamic and than single-ended to me. So there we go. Listen to Geo. Geo has made it clear that balanced is always better. So we should listen to Geo. Mesa Barbecue. Only audiophiles do a live stream in the middle of a workday. Peace from Arizona, bro. This is my buddy. My dear friend, Eric, I miss him dearly. Really good friend from Arizona. Chris Prux, howdy from Brazil, from a fellow reviewer and audio writer. Hey! Welcome aboard. Howdy, man. Good to see you. Let's see here. People talking about DDDC or DDC stuff. See if there's some questions. This is kind of a good one here. VK Vinyl Rips at Matty Man. Please tell us about your experience with cryogenically freezing cables and audio components. Well, a lot of the cables and stuff that I have that I use from GR Research has been cryogenically treated. Whether or not that made a profound difference or a worthwhile difference, I don't know. I don't get too dang excited about that kind of stuff. Drives Danny crazy whenever he comes over and he sees that my cables are on the ground. He's like, get some cable risers, Ron. And it's like he blows a gasket. And it's like, okay, I'll lift them off the ground. And there's times where I'm doing listening. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe there's a difference here. Maybe there's, a worthwhile difference. And then there's times where I'm like, I don't know. Maybe this is a bunch of silly nonsense. I guess what I'm saying is, even if cryogenically freezing any of your components makes a difference, and perhaps it does, I think realistically, based on everything that I've ever seen in helping anybody that's getting into this, and this covers a wide spectrum of folks that have affordable gear and high-end gear, anytime that I've seen their environment and what they got going on, I can promise you there are a million things that they could be doing that would make far more of a profound difference than cryogenically treating anything in their system. And so whether it's speaker placement, whether it's, understanding integration between the mains and the subs, and whether it's, moving speakers deeper into the room, whether it's acoustic treatment, the list goes on and on and on, that those things would make so much more of a difference, in my opinion. And that's just my thoughts. And that's not to say that these tweaks don't make a difference, but I do think that sometimes we put the cart before the horse, and I've tried very, very hard on my channel to help people fix that order. Like, hey, we can get to cables and all that kind of stuff and moon rocks and all that kind of stuff, but let's fix the big stuff first, Let's take a look here. As an alternative in-game for Chinese Prima Luna tube preamps, I suggest you take a listen to the American-made Atmosphere MP3, the various offerings of LTA, and even the high-end Woo audio. This is from Brent, my buddy Brent. Good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. So there's an opinion about alternatives of the Prima Lunas. James is saying, enjoyed your Pure Fidelity Mark II review. Have you ever experimented with SUT, step-up transformers, for your phono stage? Yes. The week after I did the Mark II review, I reviewed a really fancy pants top wing Red Sparrow cartridge. It's $16,500. Holy cow, that freaks me out every time I think about it. And I did the gentleman, Mike from I Believe in Hi-Fi, he's in Austin, Texas. He also sent me a step-up transformer because this cartridge is 0.2 millivolts. It's very low output. And throwing that in front of your phono stage certainly helps, and it gives you more gain. Now, the Oasis, which I'm going to be reviewing this week on Sunday, that had enough gain for me to get by. I don't need gobs and gobs of gain. And that worked out just fine. But I will say that for folks that might feel like they need a bit more, having an SUT is a great way to do it. Nothing wrong with it. All right, let's take a look here. This thing jumped on me again. Hopefully I can get this fixed real quick. Bear with me. I'm going to take a quick sip here. Give me a second. Catch my breath. All right. 123 people in here, 62 thumbs ups. Thank you guys. Remember to leave the thumbs up. It'll just do that much better once it hits the YouTube space, and I do appreciate it. John Shepler, honest reviews is one of the things I appreciate from you. Not everything is going to be a winner, but that doesn't mean I don't want to hear about the runner-ups too. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to continue doing that. I really, you know, everyone can do whatever they want with their channels. And I've heard, some of my colleagues out there who I very much respect say they just don't do negative reviews. They're not going to do it. I wish they would. I wish that I think that it would be helpful and can be very helpful to you guys to sift through, both the good and the bad. It can't all be sunshine and rainbows. And more important, there might still be some good attributes of that particular product, even with the criticisms. And so, man, I really, really, really hope that folks will consider a change of, a course correction or a change of heart when it comes to that. Like, no, I think everybody wants to hear the good and the bad, Let's take a look here. What's your opinion of the best standalone DAC under $2,500? Right now, my favorite would be the Pontus 15th from Denafrips. I think that's the prettiest sounding DAC under $2,500. That one's probably got the cake, from my perspective. Chris is asking, if you want to go to the Sonic Top high musicality with a streamer, try the Nagra streamer. I was floored. I would love to do that. I don't know much about Nagra other than it looks like medical equipment. It's very beautiful. That would be fun to check that out. How to identify bad speakers? Well, that is going to be different for me than it is for you. Usually within a couple of seconds, I can identify attributes or things that I'm noticing about a speaker that I may not necessarily love. But part of the review is tackling that and figuring it out. A good example is these. Oh man, I always forget the name of these things. The Clarity 6.2s. Somebody help me out in the comments section. Anyways, they got the Purify woofers, passives on the sides. Beautiful speaker, $4,100. They have a air motion tweeter and a waveguide on top, and on axis, these ripped my head off at first. I was like, yikes, whoa, okay. Hold your horses. Beautiful bottom end, gorgeous bass. My goodness, some of the best bass I've heard out of a stand mount, like ever, like that good. But the top part was very forward. Well, I could post the review and call it a day, or I have to remember, well, what about not listening to those speakers pointed right at you? What about a little bit off axis, pointing at your shoulders, maybe straight into the room? So my work isn't done. So how do I identify it? Well, I just identify it. I just listen to it. And it's like, okay, well, there's some things in here that I don't like. And I always listen to tracks that I'm very familiar with. And then I get to work and try to massage them into a way that works for me, And I remember to mention in the review, on axis, these will rip your head off. They rip my head off. So there's a criticism, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just placement matters of these speakers. And there's going to be some things that you're going to have to do with them. Let's see here. Benjamin Cartwright. Hey, Ron, I have been trying to find folks who have personal experiences with the company Tyler Acoustics. I purchased a pair of Halo 2s and can hardly find any information on them or the company. Yeah, I don't know much about Tyler Acoustics. I know that Danny has done some stuff for Tyler Acoustics in the past. I believe that Tyler is out of Kentucky, I think. I think there's a website, so I don't know if you have tried their website or an email. I've never reached out to them. I'm not much help here, but hopefully you do get a hold of them and get some help if you need some help from them. John is saying, "Hi Ron, I cannot stay, but I wanted to say hello. On cartridges, you are spot on. It depends. I will not use my Ortophone LVB250 on my Thorens 1601, nor will I use my Grado Aeon 3 on my Techniques 1500C. So there you go. Yeah, a lot of variables there. Some things just mesh well together and get along with each other, and sometimes they don't. The true voice of reason. The port in a speaker is a Helmholtz resonator. They are chosen and designed to accentuate that target frequency, usually a bit lower than driver's FS, and then roll off much steeper than sealed boxes. There you go. So even technically, it is a Helmholtz resonator. So there you go. That's perfect. That's great. Thank you. 147 Red says, Ron, how about a few reviews on MC step-up transformers in the under 2K range? Even Project and Aurora Sound AFE12 now have one under $600 to $750 range. I would love to do that. I'm spending quite a bit more time with with analog and listening to records and things like that. So that'd be a lot of fun. Let's take a look here. If you charge people for admission, you'd have to state this video was taped before a live studio audience. That is hilarious. And add the 80s style sitcom intro. That'd be a lot of fun, to be honest with you. I would actually enjoy that. Man, now I kind of want to do it, to be honest with you. Hi, Ron. What do you think about having Weem Ultra control the volume? I have USB out going to ship Bifrost when the Rotel Power amp via XLR. I don't know. I haven't heard any of the Weem products. I don't know how they work. I don't know how they operate. I don't know whether or not you're going to run into any issues with the volume control on the Weem Ultra. More folks can jump in here and share their experiences. I don't know. Matt W. I've used a lower model Yamaha 2 channel to add inputs by using its tape out into my main preamp. There you go. So Matt W. has kind of helped out somebody from before asking that question. Greetings from the UK. Unpacking the NX Bravo Studio versus Encore further. Does the detail in the NX lead to listening fatigue at all? Does the Encore have more meat on the bones, even with subs? This is a great question. So the answer for me is no. Now, your sensitivity of what leads to listening fatigue might be very different from mine. One of the things that I enjoy about those particular speakers is they are incredibly detailed, but for me, they don't lead to listening fatigue. I am pretty sensitive from the 1 to, let's say, 3K region, and typically my listening fatigue would happen in the example where that tweeter or that whatever's playing those frequencies has some kind of ringing going on, or maybe I might see something in the spectral decay that would lead to stored energy, and that can get fatiguing for me. Or there might be an amplitude rise or a rise in that region, which again can sound a bit forward and a bit aggressive at times, and that for me leads to fatigue. But neither of those designs for me led to any kind of listening fatigue. I just prefer the sound of the Bravos, of the Encores. And I do think that they do have more meat on the bones. I feel it's a bit more robust sounding than the Bravos. John Shepler is asking, what do you think makes a high-end hi-fi other than the price? Do you think any of the Chi-Fun-Fi product companies will ever break into the hi-fi world? What do you think needs to happen to make it? Oh, John, that's a tough one. You know, what makes something hi-fi can't be based on the price alone. It can't. Can't. And I don't buy it for even a second. A great example of this is the Daniel Hertz amplifier that I checked out. Now, that amplifier and those speakers, and I forget the exact models. You guys can, Maria, I think is the amplifier. That was $160,000. Really expensive stuff. And I'm gonna beat up on the amplifier right now a bit. And I'm sorry for doing this, but it is what it is. Um, yes, it does have a main board in there that has been designed from the ground up, and it was, manufactured and made, here in Texas of all places. But for the outboard, for the amplification section in that amplifier, it's just a couple of, like, a few generations back Encore amps. Nothing special, not modified, it just thrown in there as the amplifier. Now, that preamp could be making a pretty big difference, but um, inside of a plexiglass box, with a stamp on the back that says made in Italy, I hate to say it, I call nonsense. There's a flag on the play there. It's like, what? Maybe the knobs were made in Italy. Maybe the price would make you think that it's Italian and that it's, you just bought a Lamborghini. But, with that particular integrated amplifier, which is very expensive, it sounded fine, but there was nothing about it that blew me away, and something that would be, truly high end. This week I'm talking about the Manly Labs Oasis. Now that's $5,000. That for me is a lot of money. That's not cheap. It's $5,000 for a phono stage, tube phono stage. I would consider that true high end, much more than that Maria was. This is built from the ground up, with critical listening, high end components, things of that nature. And that I would consider it high end. But like that Maria, I just feel like it's a really expensive integrated amplifier that sounds okay. So how does China get involved in this? Oh boy. I need to chew on that, John. What do you guys think? I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. Let's take a look here. Got a couple people jumping in here. Am I down to the bottom? I am. Holy cow. This is the first time I've actually caught up to you guys. That's crazy. And we got 40 minutes of chit chat. All right. What do I think of topping DACs? I haven't spent any. Have I spent time with topping DACs? Was there a topping DAC that I reviewed a while back? I remember getting a DAC that might have been SMSL. Even if I did review a topping DAC, it wasn't memorable. It wasn't anything that blew my mind. That's not to say that they suck or that they're bad or that you might not like them. But I haven't spent any time with anything from topping in the DAC variety that made me stop and go, holy cow, I can't wait to talk about this. So that's my opinion so far. It certainly can change, and I hope that it changes. I hope that there's something that I get in from them that would blow my mind that's not going to cost an arm and a leg. Hi, Ron. Any experience with Vincent Audio? No. I would love to, and I've reached out to the dealer importer for them a number of times, and they keep blowing me off, which sucks. I don't know why. It'd be cool to check them out. I would love to check out Vincent Audio. Nick is saying, I honestly found a Yamaha C4 Pre and a PX2 linear tracking direct drive turntable at the dump a couple of years ago. Best dump day ever. Heck yeah, Nick. Now we're talking, man. Now we're cooking with fire. I mean, you guys remember back to the Yamaha versus Yamaha days. That was a Yamaha CA 2010. I got that at a thrift store for $30, bro. I mean, best find for me ever. That thing is bad to the bone. Holy cow, so good. China is already into hi-fi Shanling for 25 years already. Yeah, so that, I think that's true, John. There are going to be some manufacturers that have been doing the high-end stuff for a while, and that's great. What makes it hi-fi or high-end? The components being used, the care that's being put into it, all of those things, I guess would make it hi-fi. What the heck is hi-fi anyways? Let's take a look here. My room has asymmetric walls and ceiling. My stereo image is pushed over to the right. When I turn around, the right bias remains. How could I adjust my speaker position to fix this? This is tough, my friend. The truth is you might not be able to fix it. Open to the idea of taking some measurements. That's the first thing and figure out what is going on. And if you can do that, you might be able to get some absorption on the side where you have a wall to start soaking up some of those frequencies to even things out and to change that sound. Because here's the deal. If it sounds off, we have to remember frequencies matter. The lower frequencies are going to be a bit more omnidirectional, and it's sound pressure. As they go up into higher frequencies and the pattern of the speaker begins to do this, it becomes directional, right? It's now pointing at you. Mid and highs should be balanced. Because they're directed at you, right? It's not being scattered and it's not sound pressure. And so the reason why you'd want to take measurements is you may find that in lower mid-range, mid-bass and bass, that it's heavier on one side. And if you can start absorbing that or lessening that gain that you have there, that might help with your imaging a little bit. So give that a go. Hopefully that works. That would drive me crazy. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. Let's take a look here. Holo, Denafrips, Line Magnetics are Chinese companies, just to name a few good hi-fi brands from China. You know what? That's actually a great point. I can't believe I didn't even think about that. Like my favorite DAC, it is made in China. I often forget about it. It's like, yeah, that's hi-fi, that's high-end. Denafrips, again, I think, John, what you were asking is like these little guys, it's like the stuff that, Randy is known for, like talking about these little amps. Like, could they break more into the high-end game? I think they could try. They could do it. I don't know what the reception would be like, because I've always felt like, and it's one of the things that I love about what Randy does, is there's room for everybody, and I try to cover some of that stuff when I can, but I also swing in the opposite direction and, do reviews for highfalutin stuff. But I love that Randy is focusing on that stuff and like trying to find some diamonds and some gems in there to help you guys out. I think that's great. And I think that we need that. And I don't know if those companies would be very successful if they tried to break out of that. I think, it's kind of like stay in your lane. Like, you're doing good. You're keep refining in that lane. Make those cheaper amps sound better and better and better and better. And hopefully with a collective feedback from many, myself included, maybe that's what will happen. And it could happen, as long as we're being honest about how things sound and give honest feedback. I think that these companies stand a chance of listening and making changes. And then we all win, Let me take a look here. Lave is as well in personal audio. China is huge and leading. Yeah. I actually have a Lave DAC in for review. I got to get that on the deck and listen to that. So yeah, that is definitely true. Here we go. We've got diffusion or absorption on the ceiling when using open baffle speakers. You could do either or. The room is going to dictate what you need to do. And the height of the ceiling is going to dictate what you can and can't get away with. With diffusion, the general rule of thumb is for however many inches the deepest well is the feet needed away from the source of the playback for it to work effectively or work to its full potential. Meaning, These are 6-inch wells. I need to be 6 feet away from this diffuser, right, for it to do its thing, to scatter properly. And so if we're talking about, a ceiling that is 7 feet, 7 feet high, and you've got a bunch of diffusers, deep well diffusers on there, you might run into some issues. So in that particular example, you might actually be better off with absorption. In my case, where I have 11-foot ceilings, I could put diffusers up there and I would probably have no issues. And of course, you could do, shorter well diffusers and there's many different types of diffusers that would work for ceilings. Danny recently did a great video talking about styrofoam diffusers that you can paint that are quadratic diffusers, and even some Mr. T style diffusers that scatter in 2 planes. So it's, both planes are scattered. And those would be fantastic for ceilings because, of course, they're not big, heavy wood panels, and it's styrofoam and it's easy to mount onto a ceiling. And with styrofoam, you're only going to be diffusing top end with those diffusers anyways. After they're painted, they're not going to do much in the mid-range, in terms of diffusion properties. So that would be a great choice. So hopefully that answers. It depends on the room. The room is going to dictate what you ought to do. For lower ceilings, I think I would always do absorption. For higher ceilings, I would entertain the idea of maybe both. I would go with both. I would get both up there. Let's see here. Let's see here. Sorry, guys, this just jumped on me. Give me just a second. I'm sorry about this. Got 126 people in here, 90 thumbs ups. Guys, remember to do the like on the video so it just does better on YouTube. I do appreciate it. Super chats are welcome. You certainly don't have to. It does help out the channel grow, and I do appreciate it. And I'm here for another 30 minutes. True voice of reason, high end. Does that mean that the Class A dynamic stereo microphone preamp that I designed from the ground up is high end? Would it still be high end if it only cost me less than $30 to build? This is a good question, man. Now it's like I'm sitting here thinking about what the heck is high end anyways? Like, I don't even. You guys know me. I mean, my mantra is if it sounds good, it is good, and so that's high end. That's hi-fi. It sounds great. Doesn't matter how much it costs or what it does. It's like that little A5 amp that I celebrated. That's a dang good sounding amplifier. All right. Here we go. Do you ever use subs? I have the Yamaha NS2000 AS. They dig pretty low with the Yamaha AS2000A, but I'm looking at the next steps and borrowed an Omega sub from a friend. Any advice? Yeah. I love subs, and you can certainly get away with one sub. If I was you, depending on your setup and what you're going for, if you have followed me for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of soundstage. And so I am not the kind of guy that would throw a sub in the corner. That's just not my preferred placement. It works, and you'll get a lot of boundary reinforcement in a corner, but you might want to try it. Hang tight. It's going to sound crazy. In the middle of the room or in the middle of speakers. And that's usually a no-no. Like, whoa, that's a terrible idea. And for a lot of logistical on paper reasons, that is true. But you might want to try it and just see what happens in the room, because the room is going to dictate whether or not you can get away with it. And I've tried it enough to say that a single sub in between the speakers can sound really dang good. You might have to do some finessing to get it blended perfectly. But yeah, subs all the way. And if your friend happens to have a second Omega sub, you should jack that sub, and then you should do stereo subs, because then you win. And then move to Alaska, and he'll never hear from you again. And be like, I got your subs. You can do nothing about it. So there you go. Let's take a look here. Any thoughts on doing an op amp comparison type review? Yes. Having such a hard time choosing for my Daisy Sparkos V7 Vivids or Staccato. Yes, I am. I am going to do a comparison shootout, and I think Danny wants to be a part of that video because we might be listening for different things, and he's pretty excited about what op amps can do. So yeah, I'm I'm going to do a shootout. Sparkos has a special place in my heart consistently in almost everything that I've tried. I tend to like the voicing of the Sparkos more than everything else, but the staccato in a couple of different products has taken the lead a couple of times. So it's going to come down to, for me, between the Sparkos and the staccato. Different sounds, maybe side steps for some listeners, what you're going for. Both are beautiful, gorgeous, amazing. The Vivids are good. I find them to be a little bit too detailed at times, just a little bit too happy on top. But again, in the context of what your system is already doing, that might be exactly what you need. If it's too warmish and you need to liven things up, reaching for, the V7 can make a big difference. So I will do a comparison, and hopefully I can unpack those different scenarios and why you would get one over the other. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Acoustics is a little on the hot side. Any suggestions to do something of the same signature, but a little more laid back top end? Acoustics is a little on the hot side. Any suggestions to do something? Tom, Eric, I think I need more context for your question. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. If you want to rephrase that, I'll be able to come back and figure out what is the context of your question. I'm not really sure where you're going with that. Gavin Bradshaw. Hi, Ron. Hope all is well. Your thoughts on the Brian Miller's tube amp? I freaking love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Fully endorsed. Like, I'm drinking the dang Kool-Aid, man, and it's good Kool-Aid. The only thing that I don't like about it is that mine needs to be repaired. The one that he had sent over to Danny to check out and is now in my possession, they kind of threw together pretty quickly, and some of the tube sockets in there are acting up, and I'm getting a whole bunch of noise and garbage out of it. And so I plan to see Brian from Miller Audio at the Southwest Audio Show, and I'm going to hand him the amp, and I'm going to be like, fix this now, do it now. He'll take it home, fix it, and then he's going to come back out, visit me, listen in the shed. We're going to get it up and running again, and I'll be able to continue with that review. But right now, mine needs to be fixed. I'm telling you, for $2,600, I think that's the cost of the amp. Good luck finding better, man. It's darn good. I love it. Yeah. All right, John Shepler, I think is gonna jump in here and kind of expand on his thoughts about, hi-fi and cheap gear. He's saying, my thing is, no matter what, AEMA topping SMSL, Fozzy, and Duke, when they do make a winner, I think they would always be stereotyped into the Fluke Still Fun Hi-Fi. The Fluke Still Fun Fi. Just a thought. I think you're right, John. I think that there's going to be an attitude with a lot of folks out there that will say, it's just cheap, and so therefore it's not good. And the only thing that I can do to help with that is continue talking about those products when they do impress me. And I'm willing to do that over a long period of time. And then maybe over a long period of time, we may not be able to win them all over, but there are some that might go, hey, you know what? Ron was right. And regardless of where this is made or how cheap it is, it does sound good. And so there's merit there. And I would hope that ends up being the case. That's all we can do is just fight the good fight. Yeah. Let's take a look here. Thank you for answering. You're welcome, by the way. Any thoughts on car audio? Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me, chat. Is there any system you particularly liked? I'm not a car audio guy. Back in the day when I worked for Circuit City, I actually worked in car audio. So I was slinging subwoofers and JL audio and, what was it, kicker and, all that kind of stuff. And bass was the big thing. And it's fun. It's fine. I mean, parked outside, I've got a 2011 Civic with the paint falling off and the radio doesn't work. Whenever I'm driving, I drive in silence. I don't listen to the radio. So I'm not a big car audio guy, but there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to make fun of you. James Meyer says, any chance on reviewing MBL products? Oh my goodness. In particular, the C31 Streamer DAC. I don't know. MBL has a soft spot in my heart. There's speakers, omnidirectional speakers. Man, I've heard those at shows that knocked my socks off. I recently did a review of the top 10, favorite speakers that I've reviewed over the decade. Now, favorite is a trick word. I think a lot of people got that word confused with best. What's the best speakers that you've heard? Well, now it's a different list, but favorite would also have like other things that would lead it to be my favorite. It could be sentimental value. It could be like the XLS Encore, what I feel that speaker represents. There's merit there of you can build this for like $600 and now you've got a speaker that's going to beat the snot out of a lot of speakers that are up to $2,000. And so that's a big deal for me. MBL is one of those systems that I've heard that would be on the best. It'd be on the best list. Like it blew my mind how good those speakers sounded. And they're hundreds of thousands of dollars, so they better sound good. But it's been ages since I've actually sent an email to MBL, and I don't know if they would just laugh at me and forget me, but that would be cool. It would be cool. It would mean a lot to me if I could tackle some MBL stuff. It'd be fun. Google AX, we got a long-time subscriber here. Hello from some old stomping grounds in Minnesota. Hey, your thoughts on any key differences between NX Bravo center as left and right and a set of XLS Encores and how far upgraded? Yeah, so I actually talked about this earlier. The NX Bravo is going to be riding that line of more detail, especially on the top end. Things are going to be quicker. It's going to sound, the resolution is just going to be unreal, hard to beat. You're going to be hearing every little thing on top, air, extension, details, layering, like all of those things you're going to hear. The Bravos the Encores, on the other hand, are going to soften that just a little bit. And I like that sound in a 2-channel environment. However, in like a home theater / 2-channel environment, it's difficult for me to say which one I would like more. And the Bravos being so detailed might actually be a lot of fun, hearing every little pin drop as you're watching the movies and things like that. So considering you're thinking about doing like a center, unless you mean the center on its side only for 2-channel, then you can scratch the home theater comments. If you meant that, Google AX. I haven't heard their center on its side. I don't know how that guy performs. I know that Danny is building out a pair of those. And as soon as I get my ears on those, then I'll be able to tell you what I think. But for 2-channel, I still prefer the Encore. I do. Over any of the NX Bravos and the NX monitors and things like that. But that's just me. I'm in that camp. So, yeah. Let's see here. Sorry, this just freaked out on me again. Hopefully I didn't skip past too many questions here. Hey, Ron, what speakers would you recommend for sound staging, imaging, holographic, three-dimensional, especially for low volume lighting? Thanks in advance. Peace, brother. So, Danny and I are working on a speaker. And when I say Danny and I are working on a speaker, I have no financial interest in the speaker at all. So I'm not going to make even $1 or a dime. Now, of course, there's going to be some marketing gains. It's like Danny and Ron's working together. We both are out there in our space. And so I want to be fair in this, that it's not like I'm not getting anything out of this. Of course I am, but this particular speaker excels in everything that you just mentioned. It is my favorite speaker that I've ever heard, period, when it comes to imaging, soundstage, vocals, that 3-dimensional type performance. And this speaker will be out, within hopefully the next couple of months. It's $3,500, as of right now. So that kind of gives you a price tag of what we're looking at for it. But that, for me, at any volume levels, low, high, low up to medium, not high volume. And what I mean by that is you're not going to be hitting the 90 dB level with these speakers without hearing some distortion. Up into the 80s is realistic. Those kill it. And those are my favorite speakers, for for that. And right now they're my favorite speakers, I think, period. Like, I just love them. I can't stop listening to them. They're great. Cheap Audio Man just started his stream. I'm staying. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I didn't even realize that he was starting a stream. I'll have to jump in there after I'm done and say hello to the Cheap Audio Man. Please do an op-amp comparison, including virtual hi-fi op-amps. I'll have to reach out to them and see if they can send me some, and I'll throw them into the hopper. Op-amps is tuning depends on the chain. I think that could be true. Have big screen on my front wall and between speakers. What treatment would you suggest? Yeah, it's tough whenever you have a big screen up there, because now you just have a flat surface right in the middle of what I call sacred ground, and it's kind of hard to get around from that. You might, if you can get something up on the ceiling above, that would be a thing to do, because you got reflections bouncing off that screen that's now going to be hitting the ceiling, which is a hard surface, and walls hard surface. So maybe I would, if I was to tackle a room like that, I would look at first reflection points, and I would be doing absorption or diffusion, whatever you want. They both have reasons for being there, and that's how I would tackle it. And I would look for the first reflection on the ceiling as well, and I would do some kind of absorber there, to help, with mitigate that. Let's take a look here. What is your opinion on switching power supplies? Emotiva has made the switch. Even Paul McGowan has suggested they plan on to move away from toroidal power supplies. The Manly Labs Oasis has a switching power supply that I think was developed by Bruno, who does Purify, who is a literal genius when it comes to switching power supplies. Here's my opinion about it. I have no issues with a switching power supply, especially like in something like the Manly Labs Oasis. It sounds freaking amazing. It's unbelievable. And had that been a toroidal transformer versus a switching power supply, I think I'd be ridiculous to say that I would even know. It's like everything in that Phono preamp works. It's all working together, and the end result is what matters, right? The end result is what matters, not the fact that there's a switching power supply in there. With that being said, I've thought about this a lot, and knowing that I'm a tube guy, I love tubes. I don't know if I really ever want to see a switching power supply on a tube power amplifier. I don't know if I want to. This is my bias, right? I'm talking out of my rear end right now, but those amplifiers with that big honkin' transformer, that's doing it, the iron behind the tubes, I think has a big part of what we're hearing. And LTA is a good example of this. They ditch those and they do an output transformerless design, and so does Ralph from Atmosphere. But I like the way those transformers sound. It's like I like what that's actually doing. So I'm afraid if we take that out, I might not love that combination as much, but the verdict is still out. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. I think that it's all about the context of the item we're talking about, how it's being implemented, how it's being done. Is it possible that I may find a power amp, a tube power amp down there with a switching power supply down the road that I'm going to love? Yes. But right now I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it because, even with like the LTA designs, I get what they're doing. It's just not my favorite tube sound. I like iron behind the tubes. I like what that transformer is doing to the sound. And you may say, well, it's taken away something from the tubes. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't even care. I still like it for what it is. It's doing something that I connect with. Here's my long rant about that. I was at Florida Audio Expo and spent some good time at AGD's room with the Fisher and Fisher 307s. How did the CSS 3TDX compare, especially in the low frequency range? I don't know. I haven't heard that particular speaker from CSS, so I don't know. I'm not too sure. Tow them out more when towed in. Do something. Sorry, this just jumped on me. This just jumped on me. Hold on. Crud, where did that go? Okay, here we go. Oh, this was at Tom. Sorry, he's not even talking to me. He's talking to somebody else. All right, here we go. Switching supplies would be awesome if they put the savings towards the super cap, but that would cut profit. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of good reasons to move in that direction, for the industry. I'm sure there's a lot of logistical reasons why we ought to entertain that. But again, I just want to say that I'm a little bit worried about, in the context of a tube amplifier, I'm a little bit worried about it. This would be a cool thing to talk to Michael, the Greek audio geek, about, because we're talking the same language when it comes to tube amps. When he starts talking about dumb horns, I just want to punch him in the throat and be like, stop it. I love the guy, but it'd be cool to hear his take on this, because we both, I think, are very fond of a tube sound. We love tubes. And so it'd be cool to chat with him about it. All right, here we go. Ron, can you do some reviews of 7K to 16K DACs like Playback Designs, EMM Labs, and Weiss DACs in the future? You bet. I can reach out to those companies and we'll see what they say. If they're willing to send me those DACs, I'm happy to review them. The true voice of reason. As much as Randy is affable, etc., I prefer the Ron stream. Here to the end. My homies. Randy's the worst. Don't go to his stream. She's going to talk about cheap products and not a word about dumb room treatment. Come on now. All right. JLG says, have you ever tried PS Audio Power Plant? What are your thoughts on it? I have not. And I have tried some power stuff here in the shed, not a whole lot. I need to spend some more time with it, but I haven't had the best of luck. And what I mean by that is I haven't noticed much, if any, difference with power products in the shed. Now, I am very fortunate and blessed that the shed is on its own meter. So all of the power in here is isolated, and every single outlet is isolated, going back to its own breaker. So I did things right. I built this with intention from the ground up, and so it was with the hope that I wouldn't have any kind of big power problems, and so far I don't think that I do. So needless to say, I'm open to try that stuff, and it'll be interesting if any of that stuff makes a difference. I don't know. All right. Hello, JLG. I'm a bit mystified by power treatments. I am in France. I think that's a France flag. And the AC is fine for me. America AC is a bit erratic. Yeah, for some folks it might be, and it might make a big difference. John Shepler, Randy's stream does start until you are done, Ron. The chump can wait for you to keep giving us your opinions. You are the best. John, I am the best. I'm the best in the whole world. I'm the best reviewer. No, I'm not. I do appreciate the loyalty, and Lord knows, man, the good Lord knows I've made mistakes over the years, and there's some things that I wish I would have done different, but resilience, it's like, you get back into the ring, it's like not how many times you get knocked down, it's whether you just get back up. And I'm going to keep getting back up and learning from my mistakes and try to do a better job, Yeah. All right. Let's take a look here. Thomas Melchior says, why don't you review other open baffle speakers? What other open baffle speakers do you think I should review? I'd be happy to. I've reached out to a couple of companies, and unfortunately it's been crickets. I don't know why I see some of these open baffle offerings going to other channels when I'm like, I'm the open baffle guy. I'm like, send me those speakers. But if they ignore my requests, there's nothing I can do about it. But I would love to, I would love to. Nick, my man Nick says, I'm with you about SMPS and a tube amp. Call me old school, but I like big iron with my tubes. Now, get off my lawn. Nick, you got to come down here. You and I, man, we are Two peas in a pod. I know it. We'd crank up the old JTM 45, throw a pedal in there if you want, but you don't need to. You know, we could do a king of tone. I got a king of tone. You know, we could do that, but past that, rip it, and we could smoke up a brisket and tell the kids, get off my lawn. Unless you want to come in and listen to some great music. You know, oh, it's so true. All right, so we're 5 minutes out. I don't see. Let me see if there's any other questions here. Affable Randy versus GR Ron Search. GR Ron Search. Oh my gosh. That is the best thing I've ever heard. I might actually be GR Ron Search. My, you know, GR Ron Search. I'm changing the channel name. I'm doing it. New record day is now GR Ron Search. Oh man, if somebody wouldn't jack the new record day name, I would do that for like an April Fool's joke. I should do it for an April Fool's joke. New speakers, that's what I'm going to do. April Fool's, I'll do a GR Ron Search speaker, and on the back, it'll only have tube connectors. It'll just be only tube connectors. I'll go and jack a bunch of them, drill a bunch of holes, and it'll just be like, you can try different tube connectors to get maybe different sounds. Oh, this is the best live stream I've ever done. That is the funniest thing I have ever heard, and it's so true. I am the biggest fanboy of GR Research. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And you know, Danny's not for everybody, and he makes a lot of folks angry, you know, and bless his heart. You know, it's like there's going to be folks that they're going to just feel like he's a jerk, and that's okay. I take it with, you know, just a small pinch of salt. You know, it's like, yeah, okay. He doesn't like those, and that's okay. That's fine, whatever. But yeah. All right, guys. This was the best. That was GR Search. I'm dying over here. Man, I appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for just hanging out with me and supporting the channel over the years. You know, it's been such a wild ride, and ups and downs, and you know, at times, you know, mental health problems and things like that have gotten in my way, and I do get in my way all the time, but you guys bring me right back in, and your positivity and your enthusiasm for the reviews, and it just means a lot to me. It really does. And I don't want to get emotional here, but thank you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for watching my videos and helping us out. You know, we don't make a ton of money doing this. I think that a lot of you folks would be surprised with my tax returns. You're like, family of 5 on that. But man, I have the best job in the world, and I have a supportive wife and a supportive community. You guys are the best. And thank you for watching my videos, man. We appreciate you. So until next time, this Friday, Poet video for the 3 people that are going to watch that video. And then Sunday, Manly Labs Oasis. And I'm going to keep doing those weekly in the community page, the weekly, like, this is what we're going to be reviewing this week. So that way you guys know. You guys know what we're doing. I think it's a good idea. And it keeps me working. So, yeah. All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you guys in the next video.